Hi, I'm Jason. I'm basically a second year student at the Uni of Kent, and I'm studying language and linguistics. So alongside language and linguistics, I'm doing wild modules in Mandarin because I'm basically wanting to teach out there in the future. I think my favourite part of learning other languages, not just Mandarin, but other languages in general, is there's sort of a certain reaction you get from people when you speak to them in the native tongue. Like, people who may be strangers, they may necessarily be a bit more on edge or a bit more on guard with you when you first meet them. And then if they find out that you speak their language, they just open up and instantly become much more comfortable. Basically, classes sort of consist of, you'll have your sort of introduction, they'll introduce the characters to you, you'll have a bit of drilling, that sort of thing, so you'll be practicing your spoken stuff. And then usually it'll drift into doing a little either reading, writing or listening exercise, speaking aloud, all these sort of things. And they actually allow you to practice your skills to some extent. And then usually the second lesson of the week, the second seminar of the week will be more covering grammar and developing your knowledge of grammar. So it's structured in a way that you aren't fed too much vocab or too much information too quickly. Like, as long as you're putting in enough work, like a few hours a week, like you can probably get away with putting in like half an hour a night and still getting a decent amount out of it. I'd recommend, if you actually want to improve your productive skills, like your speaking and your listening, then, because at the end of the day language is for communication, then I'd recommend that every opportunity you get to actually practice using the language. Like, people aren't gonna judge you for being bad. You're not a native speaker. It's expected that you're gonna make mistakes, especially when you're learning. Like, people are usually going to be very friendly, very supportive, that sort of thing, and more than happy to chat with you. Like, it's always worth taking the opportunity. Plus, I think even if you're not running into, let's say, even if you're not studying Mandarin, you're not running into native speakers of the language. They CEWL basically hosts language fairs and language exchange programs once a week, so you get the opportunity to practice it with natives. It was supposed to be a 4-week exchange program, but I was out in Xi'an for 5.5, 6 weeks, give or take. So I flew out about half a week before the program actually started. It's basically the city where the Terracotta Army is. Huge amount of culture, huge amount of great food. I'd say if you are planning on going on to this exchange program, literally you've got nothing to lose by applying for it. It's one of the best experiences I've had because it's helped give me an opportunity to actually practice my Mandarin in China, which I feel like is such an invaluable experience. Like, if you ask language speakers or language learners, the easiest way to actually learn the language is to go over to that country, practice speaking it, because you're going to be immersed in that culture. So day in, day out, you're going to be hearing it, and you'll gradually sort of switch on and be able to understand more and more. When I first arrived there, I sort of still had that mindset, you know, where when you're listening, where you hear them say something in Chinese, you hear it in Chinese, you translate it into your head into English, and then you've got to do the same when you're responding. By the end of it, I felt less like I was doing that and more like I was able to actually follow the conversations, even if they were spoken at a more native speed. Going to see the Terracotta Army was really up there. Like, it's really crazy how how detailed the warriors and everything are. Like, it's almost sort of there's like an uncanny valley vibe to it. where it's like eerily realistic, you know. But another one's maybe that I got given a Chinese name as well, which is cool. I ended up with Chinzhejiang, which is quite cool. Like I quite like the sound of it. As I mentioned earlier, I do actually want to go to China in the future and teach out there at an international school. CEWL actually saved me so much because I was going to actually go out there by myself during summer. I was going to pay with my own money to be able to go to China. I always want to learn about other cultures and learn about, because there's so much to gain. There's so much to gain and so many different viewpoints to learn. And I'd say being able to actually go to the country, make friends with people who are from mainland China and stuff, you get to see more the values of everyday people, because you hear things in the news, etc., and it doesn't necessarily paint an accurate picture of what a country or what a culture is like. The only way you can actually understand it is by going there yourself. I'd say speaking the language, because that's the main way you're going to actually connect with people who are native and find yourself being able to integrate more into the culture.